In number 7, we are required to find the derivative of this function and then find the values of theta for which this function is equal to 2 multiplied by the same function. So anyway, so what we shall start with is finding the derivative of this function. So basically, to find dy over the theta of this function, or the derivative of this function, you can notice that this function here, it's squared, which means we have a function inside another function. So let me just write that this is same as sine theta squared. So which implies that dy over d theta will be equal to, if you apply chain rule, so start with outside followed by inside, so that will be 2 multiplied by sine theta multiplied by cos theta, because derivative of sine is cos. So basically this is 2 sine theta cos theta, and that will be the derivative of this function. And then part B of this function, we want to find theta such that the derivative, which is 2 sine theta cos theta, is equal to 2 multiplied by the original function, which is 2 sine theta squared. So here we have a trig equation, which means we can solve for theta by just solving this trig equation. So I'll bring everything to one side. So this is same as 2 sine theta cos theta minus 2 sine theta squared is equals to 0. Factorize out 2 sine theta, because that's a common factor. So you'll have cos theta minus sine theta is equals to 0. So either 2 sine theta is equal to 0, or cos theta minus sine theta is equals to 0. So this implies that cos theta will be equal to sine theta, which implies that, if you divide by cos theta on both sides, you'll find that this will be tan theta will be equal to 1. So basically what you can do at this point is to solve for theta. So if you remember the unit circle, um, if you remember the unit circle, whereby this is 1 0, and this is negative 1 0, this is 0 1, and this is 0 negative 1. So any arbitrary point on the unit circle, the x coordinate is cosine of theta, and the y coordinate is sine of theta. So the points where sine theta is 0 are where at 0, 0 degrees, and at 180 degrees. Remember here we're looking at a range of values between 0 and 180 degrees. So that will be here either theta is equal to 0 degrees, theta is equal to 0 degrees, and theta is also equal to 180 degrees. Now, for tan theta is equals to 1, this is from special triangles. So from special triangles, if you consider the isosceles triangle, 1, 1, root 2, that will be 45 degrees. And we can see that tan 45 degrees is equals to 1. So which implies that here, theta will be equal to 45 degrees. So, well, because the domain here is given in radians, our answer should be equal to, should also be given in terms of radians. So here, of course, theta is equals to 0 degrees. That's one. And also, theta can also be equal to 180 degrees, which is pi radians. And here, if you convert that to radians, that will be equal to pi over 4. So pi over 4 radians. And these are the required values of theta, for which the derivative of this function is equals to 2 multiplied by the original function. Okay. In number 8, we have a curve which is given by this function, and we are required to find the coordinates of all points on the curve for which dy over dx is equals to 0. Now here again, if you notice, you can see that we have a function inside another function. So what you're going to do here is to apply chain rule. So dy over dx will be equal to, if we start with outside, that will be cosine of pi cos x multiplied by inside. That will be derivative of cosine is negative, so negative pi sine x. So this will be equal to negative pi sine x multiplied by cosine of pi cos x. Now, at the point where dy over dx is equals to 0, yeah, at uh, points where dy over dx is equals to 0, we'll have negative pi sine x cos pi cos x being equal to 0. So what you're going to do here is just solve for x here. So that implies that either this will be equal to 0 or that will be equal to 0 if the product of these two is equals to 0. So either negative pi sine x is equals to 0 or cosine of pi cos x is equals to 0. Now here to solve for x, you divide both sides by negative pi. So that means that sine x will be equal to 0. Now here again, it means that, well, let me just solve this first. Now here the range of values of theta is between 0 and pi. And again, where sine x is equals to 0, I discussed that previously here, it's 0 and pi. If the domain is between 0 and pi. So here x will be equal to 0 and pi. And in this case here, we have cosine of this is equals to 0. So which means pi cos x will be equal to inverse of cos or arc cos 0. Yeah. Now arc cos 0 will be equal to pi over 2 if you look at the unit circle, because uh, cos of 90 is 0, and also another angle is cosine of negative 90 is also 0. Okay, cos of 90 is 0 and cos of negative 90 is 0. So basically here, so pi cos x will be equal to, this will be pi over 2, which is 90. And also pi cos x is equal to negative 90, which is negative pi over 2. Now we are hoping that in this case, where I choose both of those angles, 90 and negative 90, I'm hoping that the answers that I'll come up with will be within this domain. If whatever answers that I come up with are not within that domain, then I'll just leave them out. Okay? So we want to find all possibles. That's why you have all points, all possible answers. Yeah, we just don't want one answer. Otherwise, I could just have picked 90 degrees. But I'm picking 90 and negative 90. Okay, so basically moving on. So from this equation here, if you divide both sides by um, pi, so the pi's will cancel, so you'll end up with cos x is equals to a half. Um, and here we'll have cos x being equal to negative a half. Now this point is where we can look at the special triangles, uh, where you have root 3, 2, 1, and that will be equal to 60. Now you can see that cosine of 60 here is a half, so which implies that x will be equal to 60 degrees. Um, Now in this case, because it's negative, that will be in, if you're looking at between 0 and 180, that will be in the second quadrant, which means 180 minus 60, that will be equal to 120, so x will be equal to 120. And in terms of radians, this will be 60 pi over 180, which is same as pi over 3. And here 120 pi over 180, which is same as 2 pi over 3. And basically, those will be the required solutions.